The following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Viewpoint on 96.3 WLCN on this somewhat going to be cold, I guess we can say, day and rainy. So anyway, but thanks for tuning in, folks. Listener lines are open, 217-648-5510. We have Andrea Runge today with us from Leeds, so welcome. Thank you for coming out to the radio ranch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure how many times this is. I used to know, but I'm a regular out here at the ranch.
Yeah.
I don't know if this counts towards your 5-Timers Club on the 4 p.m. 411.
I think it's a separate jacket. So, like, I'm expecting you to, fill out my wardrobe with 5-Timers, 10-Timers jackets.
Do we have a punch card to give her?
I should
get into the VIP lounge and the whole
there
thing.
You go.
Hey,
a bottle of water, complimentary water afterwards.
Hang out with the possum in the kitchen.
All the bells and whistles.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I love to be here and talk to all of you about, Lincoln, Logan County community stuff, but that's my bag. I'll talk to anybody about it literally at any time.
Well, speaking of talking to anybody, you're just got back from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's been about a month since we got back from Puerto Rico. As you can tell, for those of you on YouTube, by my beautiful tan, I did only work in Puerto Rico. I did notice that it was warm, but I was actually there for work. It was the Economic Recovery Corps Fellow. It was our first year. We just wrapped our first year. It was the retreat to plan our second year. We have had 12 months with Miss Dorsey Hill. She had finished her master's degree at London School of Economics and is now here living in Peoria, helping both LEAD and GPEDC out of Peoria, specifically in the area of business retention and expansion, although she has many, many talents and she's doing so many beautiful things here, and I just cherish her partnership. But when I was in Puerto Rico, the great thing about the ERC, it's the first year of that cohort, this cohort. So not only did we get into the 65 spots, but we're on the initial wave of this. So you've heard of Peace Corps Fellow, you've heard of maybe the AmeriCorps Fellow. This is a new fellowship. It was a partnership out of the International Economic Development Council and the U.S. Economic Development Administration.
Oh, wow.
They put this together. There's 65 fellows all throughout the United States and territories. So we have fellows doing work in Puerto Rico, which is why we were there. We did some field work while we were there. My field work was actually in urban San Juan, but we were looking at a lot of different things, community centers in areas of high poverty, prostitution, those kind of things, to kind of change that perspective. They'd taken this really old school and changed it into places where kids could have dance classes and art classes, also doing some work with the elderly in that community to kind of get them back into the workforce to help them come out of poverty. We went to a charter school in a part of a Boys and Girls Club that took a two-gen approach. So if you ever do poverty work, they talk about treating the whole family. And so not only just the child, but the parent too. Well, this particular school actually did that. They started with the children inside. This was inside the San Juan projects. And so they took everybody, they started with a kindergarten class. They had enough staff for that class. And then when that class moved to first grade, they hired a first grade staff. And then they had grown this all the way to seventh grade. They're feeding the kids in that program breakfast and lunch, and they open dinner up to the entire community. So anyone can come and get a meal. And then they're teaching the parents of those students job skills to really kind of treat the whole family. Mm-hmm. And so we were learning about how they do that in a territory, what makes that different, how they fund that without as much dependence on the government, which, they do some really interesting things. They talk about that there are, something like 3 million Puerto Ricans that live on the island, but 5 million that live on the mainland. And so they actually fundraise for all those programs with the people on the mainland to help the people on the island. Really enriching experience, very fulfilling. To do that kind of learning, like on the ground. We did some other things too. We went to an area of San Juan that was really kind of not a ghost town, but kind of left. They had brought in artists. They gave them $22,000 to just create art in this area, and then they were giving businesses $10,000 if they would just move to that neighborhood. If you'll move to that neighborhood, we'll give you $10,000 towards whatever. And then if you created affordable housing in that neighborhood, they'd actually give you tax abatement for a longer period of time. So really trying to pull people back into that.
To revitalize their area. So.
Right.
And what's neat is, too, you mentioned you're in another country, so you're not, I shouldn't say stuck in the United States, but you're seeing how another country's handling it, like you said, without government help. and incorporate or tweak or change what you may want, what needs to be done or could be implemented here. So
Right. The interesting thing is that they're actually a territory of the United States. So
True.
A little plug, you can get there without a passport. If you're looking for a place to go that's, really got kind of that island feel. But if you go there, it's interesting because they have different challenges. Like their governor isn't elected by them. It's appointed by the President of the United States. And so how they operate in that system, to me, as an economic developer, is just really interesting. Like, how do you solve problems without reliance on that federal money?
So you mentioned that, and we're not going to dive deep into politics.
Oh, I hope not.
No. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
It's way too early.
No.
And this is very alcohol free, so I'm not sure that I have the stamina
you did not
for that
bring the peach
conversation.
schnapps for us then. So anyway, question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the president will appoint the governor. So does that go with each term of a new president? So Biden appointed one. Now it's Trump's term, and then when Trump is done,
As I understand it,
is that how it works? That's just a
I
general
think so.
question.
I'm not an expert by any means on Puerto Rican politics, but I
was just curious.
No,
Yeah.
I did try to pull people aside while I was there. The people who have one guy that actually lives in Ohio now because he's a fellow, but had spent time there, so I bent his ear. I asked this poor Uber driver on my way back to the airport all kinds of things about how he felt that was, if how he felt as a citizen there, if he felt that he had representation from his government.
What did he say?
He said that he actually thought that if it didn't work that way, let's put it in the positive perspective. He thought that having someone that was outside and appointed actually kept corruption down because it was a kind of a third-party person. What I thought was sad about it was that person who gets appointed is usually not from Puerto Rico. It's from somewhere else.
Okay.
And that made me feel, kind of like when we do community development, we talk about not about us without us. And so I was really thinking, like, as just a guy who drives Uber, like if your governor has never come from where you've come from, how does that make you feel? Like, how just as a human being, like how does that affect you?
Yeah. Huh. Neat. So, anything else from Puerto Rico that was
Anything
interesting?
else from Puerto Rico? I mean, those people are my people. And not the Puerto Rican people, the economic development people. And so being able to sit in conference, and we were in conference from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, and really sitting there and talking about how we are all dealing with the things that we're dealing with at a local level. And then, I'm finding that at this point in my life, and I know I look so young, but I'm becoming an elder stateswoman of economic development, and in that arena, I'm a mentor, which is weird, to be at a point, because I don't think of myself as that person. I just think of myself as a cat mom, really. But in that arena, to be like, oh, that's really interesting. And there was this young man, his name's D. Polk, and he is stationed in Louisiana. And he was talking, he has 3 counties in Louisiana. He was having a hard time getting them to tackle problems together. One of them does really well economically. One of them is really struggling economically. One of them's kind of floating along. And so I was able to send him ideas later on because it really stuck with me, how he really wanted to do good work for them. How do we do that? And so I gave him a little idea about commuter rates. If you look at the commuter rates between those 3 parishes that he serves, it might help those parishes understand that they're more connected than they think they are. anymore. Lines on a map are just drawn. And so that's not how we live, really. So if we look at it from a regional perspective and give them the commuter data, which is available through the American Community Survey, but if we do that for them, then they get a chance to see their life from a different perspective. And then it might be the catalyst that helps him create some collaboration there. So to me, the entire experience, the one-on-ones with Dorsey, working more in line or in step with Greater Peoria, and then having these people from all over the continent to have these conversations with and really talk about how do we best serve the people. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's about. How do we best serve the people? And how is it that we, if this is the problems we're facing, how do we communicate that in a way that helps everybody understand their connectedness, which I think is very important right now. It seems so easy to be divisive. But this is, how do we help people understand that they're better together? And in that way, I was able to share a little bit. And I got that same thing from other people. Mm-hmm. They were willing to say, I had some conversations about Logan Correctional Center with people who've been through that in different areas. How did they go about it? Who did they bring in? Whose ear might I bend to kind of help us out? So it was a very fast trip. I left on Sunday. I came back on Thursday. But in that time, I really got a lot of personal and professional enrichment. So
that's wonderful.
And the weather was nice. There was one time I had a conversation with, it was actually, they were a host and fellow out of Hawaii. They served on the Big Island. And we had to have a kind of a quick group chat. And I said, would you mind having this on the balcony? And they were like, that sounds amazing. So I was happy to soak up a little sun when I could. But obviously not too much because I'm still very pale.
Nah, you look wonderful. You do. When is the next, summit, your next one of these? That is, do they have it yearly then? Or
it is annual. There is some uncertainty about the program just because of the uncertainty at the federal level of what survives and what doesn't. And so we are in a bit of kind of an odd limbo right now, but I feel positive that this is such an amazing program. I know what it's doing for us. And I hope so much that it continues because I know that the things that Dorsey has been able to kind of just help me accomplish in the last year has been so incredible. I cannot imagine what that's like magnified by 65. Mm-hmm. And so if it were able to continue with it, we'll do that again in the last one will be in the next beginning of 2026 because we've only got a little under 18 months left in the program, and I'm going to be very sad.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we've got a lot more to dive into from meetings that you had in November to your revealing of that meeting, brainstorming if you want. But folks, stay tuned when we come back with Andrea Runge.
This is Corporal Brian Clements with the Lincoln Police Department. This week, Lincoln Logan County Crime Stoppers is seeking information in reference to 2 burglaries in Lincoln that have occurred recently. A building at 523 North Elm Street was burglarized during the February 1st weekend. Another building at 411 North Chicago Street was burglarized on the weekend of February 3rd. Multiple expensive tools were taken from both locations. If you have any information on this crime, please contact the Lincoln Logan County Crime Stoppers anonymously at 217-732-3000 or the Lincoln Police Department at 217-732-2151. Tips leading to an arrest could receive a cash reward up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers only wants your information and not your name.
The Lincoln Logan County Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week is brought to you by Me Realty, supporting a thriving community safe for families through support of the Crime Stoppers program. Me Realty, 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. Whether you're buying or selling your home, the brokers of Me Realty will work with you to get the deal done. As one of Central Illinois' top producing offices for decades, Me Realty has the experience to guide you through the process. You want results? Call the brokers of Me Realty at 217-735-5424, stop by the office at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, or check out local listings online at merealty.com.
Culver's is a family restaurant. To me, that means being the place that puts a smile on everyone's face. We're famous for our cooked-to-order butter burgers and frozen custard made daily inside our restaurants. But we've always believed more menu options mean more ways to brighten your day. We source the finest chicken to bring you our tenders and chicken sandwiches. And our cheese curds. They're a Wisconsin tradition we're proud to share with you. So take the next meal shift off and let us take care of you. Welcome to Delicious.
Culver's, home of the Butterburger, 2530 Woodlawn Road in Lincoln. Full Gospel Evangelistic Center makes an impact locally and beyond through a wide range of events, ministries, and outreaches. Pastors Steve and Debbie Owens invite you to worship Sunday mornings at 10:30 and attend Wednesday night Bible studies at 6:30. Connect with FGEC online, follow them on Facebook, download their app, and visit their new website at myfgec.org with live YouTube video streams as well as recordings of services and special events. Full Gospel Evangelistic Center, 304 North McLean Street in Lincoln.
Back to 96.3 on WLCN. And again, folks, if you have any questions, concerns, kudoses for Andrea, please call in at 217-648-5510. So before we took the break, we mentioned you had a meeting in November. I guess you can say meeting of the minds, an idea meeting. Briefly touched on that because then from that meeting, you just did the reveal for that.
Last Friday.
So there's some teasers for our listeners.
Yeah, so I came here in March of 2021. So I am very soon going to be at my 4th anniversary. So we had done, after I got here, we created our first strategic plan was really about, being a very young organization and how do we scale it up with one staff person. And we are ready to do our next phase of that, which we started last summer actually as a community survey. We got a lot of responses, 41, I want to say. It could have been, 45. Hey, we're better than I thought. But those were from all kinds of people who live in Lincoln, people who own a business there, people who own commercial real estate there, ag, big business, small business, socioeconomically diverse populations, really we had representation from a lot of different areas. They answered our survey. We took it back as a board. We had a committee, and we looked at what came out of that and what we really wanted to question. We did that on November 8th in a focus group. We had 31 respondents. I knew there was a 1 there. We had 31 people, same kind of energy, so from all over the community. And we questioned, is that right? This is what we heard. Is that what you believe? And then can we talk about it, unpack it? And we had this 3-hour focus group meeting, which everybody thought, oh my golly, 3 hours. But it was hopefully fun. Everybody had Play-Doh and candy. I mean, you can't be that upset with Play-Doh and candy. And so then we had these discussions, which I put through a methodology to take it from qualitative responses to quantitative responses. I did that through the community capitals, which are, I can tell you if they are on my paper, but they're not good. good. There are 8 of them, and they go from natural capital, like how we see our environment, all the way down to intellectual capital, like what are we thinking. And so there was somebody in the focus group that had said, if all these things happen, we would have more trees. So that goes into natural capital. But then one of the things we talked about was small town character. Well, that's a little different. That has to do with our cultural capital, who we are, who we identify with, what our history is, and also how do we communicate that. So that goes into social capital. So I weighted those answers, and then we came up with 5 different strategies. My committee and I, the board agreed, and we revealed those last Friday. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So the first strategy is elevating our profile. So what we heard overwhelmingly was that awareness of LEAD wasn't great. Nobody knows what we do exactly, and there are some reasons for that because a lot of what I do is confidential. If I'm dealing with your business and you tell me something, you want to make sure that I keep that in confidence. And so I keep, and the board and I sign confidentiality agreements every year. We keep it really center of our thinking. So there's some of those things we cannot change, but there's some of those things we can. Doing more focus groups, having more input from the community, really getting that not about us, without us baked into the soup, or I guess you don't bake soup, cake. But if we can do that, we will hopefully elevate not only the profile of Lincoln and Logan County, but as LEAD as a driving force within Lincoln and Logan County. I was thinking last night, and I wrote notes, and of course I left them bedside, but I was thinking about it might be interesting to give everybody, like, how do you apply that to your own life? And elevating the profile of Lincoln and Logan County in your life just means telling people what you love about living here, or what you love about doing business here. It's not that difficult. It's just a matter of focusing on the positives and spreading that word. So that's what you can do in your own life. Strategy 2 is supporting workforce. We know that workforce is a big issue in a lot of places. And in order to support it, we know that we have a lot of what they call disconnected youth, people who really want to be positive, might call them opportunity youth. And those are people from 16 to 24 or maybe 16 to 32, depending on which study you're looking at, that aren't in school and don't have a job. So they're just disconnected. How is it that we fix that? We have a decent amount of kids in that area. Well, the answer is we need to go earlier than that. We need to start doing things like more like Career Spark for Logan County, which we started last year, and we'll continue, and doing more things like pulling in junior achievement of Central Illinois into our schools in elementary because they already have the curricula, so, and they serve our area, so really just plugging them in here will help a lot with that. What can you do if you know someone who does not have a GED and that is keeping them from being an active part of our society, or feeling like it is? Heartland Community College allows GED classes for free. And, one thing I asked at a meeting a couple weeks ago with them was, how do we help you with that to get those people that need that service connected with the service? And their response was so amazing to me, which was, sometimes you need to just meet them in our parking lot and walk them in the door because they just need someone to be with them. Because once you get in the door, we know the staff there. They're lovely and they're just willing to serve and help from the front door to the director's office all the way through. But sometimes somebody just needs that little kind of encouragement to get them through the door. So think about that. Who could you maybe connect with Heartland to get them on a path to their GED? 3, strengthen infrastructure. So when we think infrastructure, it's built capital, right? We're thinking about roads, we're thinking about, maybe our systems, our water systems, our sewer systems, but also think about our vacant buildings. Those are our infrastructure as well. And we're going to look at how do we connect programs and ideas and capital with those buildings and try to renovate those. We have buildings that are vacant, but we also have people that can't find a space to go into, and partly that's because the buildings that are vacant are really not ready. So how do we connect those? But I want you to also think about infrastructure in a different way. Think about daycare, access to affordable daycare. If you do not have a place for your child to go that is safe, you probably are not going to go to work that day, or maybe at all, if you don't have that support. So how do we get affordable daycare? How do we work on that as a community? Also think about transportation. If you are someone who doesn't or cannot drive, or for some reason you have a vehicle that breaks down, let's say you live over by the old LDC, and your opportunity for a job maybe is at Precision Products or at Eaton, that's a long walk when it's 0 degrees. And we really can't expect someone to every day, have that kind of grit and determination to get there without public transportation. That's going to be a hard one because it needs to be countywide. We have some solutions, but not really those for workers who would get you someplace consistently. So how do we do that? Some communities do that by giving subsidies for Uber and Lyft. So that's one way we can look at it, as well as traditional. So think about infrastructure kind of really in a broad sense. For what you can do in your life, pick up trash. I mean, if you see trash, pick it up. Even better yet, if you have trash, put it in a proper, receptacle.
Yeah.
But think about that. What can you do every day to beautify our space? I was at the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs conference last week. One of my best quotes I got there that I picked up was, "If you can't light up the world, light up your block." Isn't that amazing? Taking that idea and really bringing it down to what's happening on my block that I can help with. And if we all did that, where would we be?
And this is not just for businesses. This is for your neighbors, for where you live, so people kind of need to get out of that mindset, well, I don't own a business, this has nothing to do with me. Wrong.
Well, and the reason is because it's going to take us all.
It is. It takes a village.
It does. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child and to raise our economy. You heard it here first. Strategy 4 is enabling capital. We know that that's really hard for small businesses. Love bankers. I am a reformed one. And what we expect them as a taxpayer. We appreciate the fact that they are following their regulations, but what that means is they're not risk takers, they're asset converters. And if you are a small business, you really need someone who's willing to take that risk with you. So how do we find programs that really help those companies that want to get started? How do we help them and elevate them? What can you do? Shop local. We've talked about this every time I'm here. Shopping local is something that you can do. I can do business retention expansion till the cows come home. But if we don't shop our local businesses, I can't do it. I can't do all the lifting. It takes all of us shopping local and keeping that in mind. Look for it in Lincoln first. Look for it in Logan County second. And then do concentric circles from that point about where you shop your goods. And I got one last one is advancing business. And it's really just working on entrepreneurship, making sure that we're walking alongside our emerging entrepreneurs all the way up through our large employers and meeting their needs, trying to think creatively about how to do that. Because in the end, we are an economic development company. That's what we're here to do. If you want to figure out how to do that in your life, refer a friend. If you've got a good friend who's reliable and a good worker, refer them to a local business for a job. If you hear about those things, connect those dots. The things that we can do, it doesn't take extraordinary measures to make a difference. And those people are looking for good, reliable workers. A lot of them are willing to train them. And if that's the case, refer someone you know that's really good to those people.
Neat. Wonderful. And then, yep, I believe you had a grant unveiling of some sort, or...
So I've got two things, and
we're fine on time. You're
okay.
Good. You're good.
I'm checking with the... Do you need to do commercials?
No,
okay.
No, we're good.
So we had two things. One, I talked to you about, we have an ICJA grant, which is the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. We are in the middle of that right now. One of the things that we're doing with that is that we are partnering with Defy Ventures, which is a national company. They do work actually right now at Logan Correctional Center teaching those women entrepreneurial skills. They have community-based programming as well, and we are, they have something called boot camp, and that is an online class for entrepreneurial skills. And because of this grant, we've enabled 5 local people who've been impacted by the justice system to learn about how to start or advance their own business. So that's really exciting.
Is this something that we can, I know you mentioned, prior to that you mentioned Logan Correctional Facility. So possibly this is something we can obviously need to highlight and bring to the governor's attention, because when he was referring, there's more resources in Northern Illinois. It's like, there is not. We are doing things, already in our prison system, so we've already got things implemented. Mm-hmm. So this sounds wonderful that we need to bring light to the situation.
So the Department of Corrections knows that they're here. And I've had conversations with their interim director about the fact that I volunteer out at Logan Correctional to help as a business coach for those women. And by the way, so can you. You can go to Defy Ventures and you can go out there and sit with those women and help think through their business plan with them, help them tell their story in a way that is less scary for them. I mean, all those things have to be addressed. Those are hurdles we have to get over. Mm-hmm. And when we do that with them, the recidivism rate of the people who go through this is dramatically cut, almost in half. It is astonishing. So we really want to do that. And the state knows that we're doing it. But I like the way you think. And we continue to kind of push that towards them. The ICJA grant is a state grant. So
neat.
Yeah, they're aware.
But maybe we need to remind
them, yes. I love that he has come forth with the idea of this surplus to success, which could have a big impact on Lincoln Developmental Center should it make it through budget. So good things, really good things, positive talks. Some of them I can, give you more insight in than others, but really impactful things. And then the last thing I think that you were referring to is an initiative that we've started called the Lincoln Way, and it we had our reveal of the world premiere of the Lincoln Way video. This came out of something that we did, and I know Lloyd and I have talked about reversing the exodus here while I was on 411, I think. We were talking about how is it that we retain and attract young people. And as part of that conversation, we had so many creative young people in the room. We started this discussion about why is it that we are depending on people like me to tell the story of Lincoln when Lincoln probably doesn't need more me. We need more young people. So we decided to come up with this idea, and it's me, which I'm the old lady again in the group, and then we've got 5 young fellas from Lincoln, Logan County, all born and raised here. who do this kind of work, and they really, we are this kind of cohesive, messy group thinking about what we can do. So the Lincoln Way is a collection of video strategist, Jacob Tyler Media, Jacob Lamoth runs that, branding specialist, Double Oak Branding, which is Ethan Frontone and Justin Harnicky. So for filmmaking, we have Z Culture, which is Zach Lucan. And then social media. So how do we get this out to the world? And that's Kale West with Print Digital. All of those businesses happen in Lincoln and Logan County. And it was interesting to me. So we have a 5-minute launch video to explain what the Lincoln Way is and how it's going to be kind of unveiled throughout the community. But the interesting thing that I found was at the end of the video, at the end of the thing, I had a local businesswoman who was really involved. I think she's really connected. But she came up to me and said, I had no idea that we had people who do this work here. I didn't know those businesses existed.
I did not
here.
either. Well, other than Double Oak Branding that I did know of. The others that you mentioned, I did not. I've not heard of them.
So Print Digital actually has a brand new building on Hamilton Street. They bought, it's across from Bennett Funeral Home. They bought that building. They've got an apartment that they're doing in one part of it, and then he is completely renovated. It's like 9,000 square feet. It's got garages because part of what they do is their social media, they're really good with automobiles, and so they can pull the vehicles in and do shots with them and all these things. But he has amazing plans for that building. Jacob and Zach, you may know their work from things like Sips at Spirited Republic. They produce that. They also produce the Trifecta's Christmas spectacular every year, which is always funny. But they really are this group of creative young people who love Lincoln and Logan County. And so it's really about having them lead us through branding and storytelling so that the world knows that we're amazing, because we are.
And why it's so good to come and live in Logan County. I mean, you think about it, I don't want to say growing up. I mean, we grown, but you know, we used to be able to go out to the Elks for dinner. You know, people retire, people move away. You know, now we've got, you know, the younger generations coming in and, you know, going, why should we, you know, live here other than it is affordable housing, but we need to draw more businesses. And I think we need to revitalize, we've been saying all along, Logan County.
Right.
So.
And, you know, I think that the answer is yes and. So economic development is different now than it was, say, in the 1980s, where the answer was you brought in a big manufacturer.
True.
And then everybody came for the job.
They follow the job, yes.
It's much more personal now. The how you make your decision about where you live is much more internally motivated because you have different opportunities to work from anywhere. And that's why, you know, Print has, well, first of all, they have employees all over the world, and their customers are primarily on both coasts. So while they are in Lincoln, Logan County, which may not feel like they're in such a metropolis, they really have access to either side of the country pretty quickly.
Right.
So it allows them to do the business they need to do in the place that they love to live. And when people come in, the content creators and things, to visit them or their customers, they realize the beauty of Lincoln and Logan County, the quiet, the safe, the fun aspects. You know, part of what we need to do is make sure that we're cranking up the fun.
Maybe put them in touch with J.R. Glenn and Tracy Welch, since we've got Logan County and Lincoln leaders meeting, joining together, joining forces, that may be a good collaboration to even get the word out even more.
You know, I think that we all have the ability to do that, right?
Yep.
So when you see things that you think are really good happening here, and you see your public servants, tell them good news. How many people tell them good news? How many people tell them bad news? Be the light in their world today. You make sure that you see what you think that is going really, really well, and give them a pat on the back. I think it's great that our county and city leaders are working together. We're working on some planning. Unfortunately, we had a grant that was almost funded. We were a week before decision when the federal grants got shut down, and they might come back, but we just don't know the outcome of that. But that really was to do some concentrated economic development planning with the RPC, which handles both the city and the county, so that we're really kind of all moving in the right direction. That is something we're going to have to look at. How do we scale that without that funding, should it not come in? Which brings us all the way back to Puerto Rico, because that's exactly what I learned there.
Yeah.
How is it that we can scale these things and have like control of our own destiny?
And not be relying on, and nothing against government, but, government funding this.
Well, yeah, government grants are amazing.
True, they
They're
are.
amazing.
Nothing against it, but if it's not there, then how do you go about doing it?
Right. What we don't want to do is lose the momentum
Right.
That we've put in place that got people excited about the idea of coming together to plan by not having the kind of the oomph that particular grant was going to give us and may still give us. But how is it that we, plan for scenarios? That's what I want businesses to do scenario planning, to think about what the future might hold and what kind of options there are. Same thing that we need to do here. It's just not going to be quite as easy as I'd hoped. Darn it.
Nothing's easy in life. But it's something we learn from. Every day is an adventure, and if something negative happens, how do we take that and put it into a spawn, learn, and go on? So
absolutely. I say all the time to the businesses that I assist, if something goes completely haywire, that all of life is research and development.
True.
If you look at it that way, then this doesn't feel like that big of a blow. This just feels like, okay, well, that was a colossal miss. But how is it then? What did I learn from that? And what of that did work? And if you look at it as research and development, then it becomes something that you're not bogged down by, but energized by. And that's what we need to find.
What questions do you have for Angie?
Or Andrea.
Or Andrea. It's a long story. It's a joke.
Well, Agnes.
Yes, Agnes.
That's right. I forgot it's Agnes today. Yes.
I saw your smiling face at the press conference about the Lincoln Developmental Center.
Yeah.
Potential things happening there.
yeah.
What was sort of your take on it, or any insights that you're able to share as far as just as far as the whole situation and where the future might go?
That no one knows, right? But what I'm very, very encouraged by this show of good faith, which is what I think it is. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was sitting in because I've been thinking about, so Joe Shaler, God love Joe Shaler, God bless him, rest in peace. But he had brought me to Lincoln before I moved here, before I worked for LEAD, to show me LDC because he wanted it to become veterans housing. Right. And so because of that and because of the road or the work that I did there, I was in contact with CMS at the time, and leaders trying to say, hey, this doesn't seem right. How do we fix this? And so the person who I was talking to at that time, who worked for CMS, now works for DCEO, and I've known her this whole time. She's lovely. And we were sitting in a meeting, and I slipped her a Post-it note and said, is there a way, because at the time DCEO was giving grants for these mega sites. They were giving to anybody. Oh, you want to do mega site development, site ready development? Here, we're going to give you a grant. You have to go through all these hoops. And I slipped her a Post-it in this brainstorming session and said, why can't we do that with LDC and properties like that? It's surplus real estate. It's owned by the state. And why, as a business decision, it makes more sense to put that money into an asset you already have to create something that you can actually sell rather than not. So for me, I know that there could be people who look at that like, oh, well, throwing a bone. And the thing is that there's a lot of system work that has to go on before we know if this is going to happen. And so it's a long haul. But from my perspective, the fact that this grew from a Post-it to being in the governor's budget address means that, this has legs. This is growing. It's moving. If I played a small part in that, awesome. Because the reality is that places like Dwight and Lincoln and Jacksonville and other places that have these things, it can be an economic turn for them because it gives us a way to have something that, first of all, takes away that psychological drain that is on us every day and turns it into something that has hope and then eventually has jobs and that's the way I would want to see it. Of course, I'm a little bit of a broken record. So I see it as, it's got rail access, it's close to I-55. Mm-hmm. I think that we could get a lot of site selection looking at that. And I think that there are some other possibilities as well, but I've already said too much.
No, you didn't.
No, but I mean, I'm thrilled to death. And, I really believe that it was, I hope that means that the governor is ready to be a partner with Lincoln through this. That just makes good old-fashioned sense. How do we make that, continue that kind of thinking and work together to create something there that brings us just hope and light again. Those buildings really are a psychological drain on us, and getting rid of them is a first step in a long road, I hope.
Well, too, not just that, but also, too, they're building the juvenile detention center there. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have kids looking out, seeing dilapidated buildings. Mm-hmm. So like you said, that's psychological. So let's even go another step further. You've got young kids who's going to be there. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they just threw me off to the wayside, here in Logan County, and I'm looking at these dilapidated, grungy buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are so many possibilities there. It's, between 75 and 100 acres left of that facility. I mean, there's amazing green spaces. And honestly, there's endless possibility there. And whatever it is, at the end of the day, will be better than what's there.
Well, Logan County, we connect with 72.
Yes.
For 55, or, with 55.
Yeah.
Interstate 74. We've got a lot of connections, here, like you said, rail, everything. And so why not? We really need to be capitalizing on our location here in Logan County.
And when you start to look at, in a 45-mile radius or so, how many people actually live in this centralized area. We're central to all these people. It's almost 1 million people in 45 miles from where we are. So then you can start, especially since there is that rail there, UP runs right there, we can look at things like logistics, distribution, those kind of jobs that would really make an impact. So then it becomes, how do we, make the right balance? So these things are, we call them wicked problems, right? Everything that you pull has an effect on something else. So you have to really think through all of those things. Like an example is if you have, when we talked about the vacant buildings, and we know that we have people who are maybe staying in those and squatting there. When we think about how do we do that, in order to really make a difference in those vacant buildings, first we needed to have something like Hope on Fifth, so that those people, have a place to go, so that we're not creating another problem for them. And so I'm way off topic.
No, you're fine.
We've been on forever, but it's really about how do we do that in a way that makes the most sense, because it's not enough just to make money. The mission of LEAD is to empower Lincoln's economic health and vitality. Well, economic health means something different to everybody. And vitality means that when things happen, like the uncertainty between as we transition at the federal level, it means having the ability to pivot and change so that we don't get left behind in that. And then the empowerment piece is really about the fact that when you are looking at building up economies, it's more about building people than it is about building buildings. So how do we do that in a way that's respectful and inclusive of everyone who needs to have a seat at the table, not about us without us?
Well, we've got a lot of resources here in Logan County, and then, with LEAD. We have it with Hope on Fifth. Last week we had the Department of Ag here talking about Illinois products. So, people can contact them, as we mentioned, getting their name out, helping them get branded. So truly here in Central Illinois, we have a lot of resources, and we have great people to start with. Like I said, Hope on Fifth, Illinois Department of Ag. Where can we go? And they will help direct you. So if you're listening, scratching your head, going, I don't know what to do, just pick up a phone and call.
Sure.
So if they do, how do they get a hold of you?
You can reach me by phone or text at 217-871-1439, or you can email me, Runge, that's ARUNGE, at thriveinlincoln.org, or you can visit our website, which is thriveinlincoln.org, and it will be changing because it will have things about the Lincoln Way. There's going to be new surveys. We're going to ask for video submissions. This is really going to be a community-driven initiative. So not just we're going to tell stories that we think we should. We're going to ask you what stories should we be telling, and then telling those in a way that gets the attention of hopefully the world. Because if we are authentically ourselves, there's someone out there looking for a place just like this to call their own, to make their business, to make their life, to build a family. That
you got any? What else do you have for
Any
Andrea?
truth to the rumor that the Abraham Lincoln themed water park is going to go in there at the Developmental Center? I heard that on a show not named here on WLCN yesterday when the mayor was the guest.
I can neither confirm nor deny, and I mean that with the most honesty. I know nothing. Like, oh my gosh, like all of a sudden I should be on Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing, and I'm not even playing coy. I've not heard anything to that rumor.
Well, that's because I started the rumor.
Oh, see how y'all are. No, I don't think so.
All right.
Darn. Well, Jim, do you have anything for Andrea? Well, I greatly appreciate you coming here and your wealth of knowledge and resource for everybody here. So greatly appreciate you and everything that you are doing. So it does not go unnoticed. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Viewpoint. The Lord weather willing, we'll be back next week.
This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln.